Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of the Wild Doggies Fan podcast. If you're new here, please like the video, subscribe, comment, and stay tuned for all future videos. Also, follow me on Instagram at the Wild Doggies Fan. I post a lot of content on there, and I'm very active on there. And yeah, welcome everybody to the 6th episode of this show. And I'm looking forward to this episode. You know, there's all the news of the new Immortal being inducted. There was a lot of injury news over the weekend, a lot of great games. So let's just dive straight into it with the round 24 review. The first game on the Thursday night, Panthers versus Melbourne. Melbourne got the win 24-22. And this was a really good game. You know, I enjoyed watching this game. Very early on, there was a bit of controversy around Nathan Cleary got obstructed, which led to a Melbourne try. Then there was Nelson getting sin binned because of he hit Dan Laurie, who then hit Cameron Munster, and that got him sin binned. And yeah, it was a bit of a shock, you know, Penrith losing in Penrith, but at the same time, Melbourne just had them wrapped, and clearly they won that minor premiership. I think they're now about 4 points ahead of that minor premiership now, so I reckon they'll probably be the ones to get it. And of course, this game was great, but it kind of got overshadowed by Nathan Cleary being injured. You know, about 63 minutes, I think it was. He had a shoulder injury. Obviously, wishing him a speedy recovery. And yeah, didn't look good, but they say he'll be back by finals time, so that's good news for Penrith fans. And yeah, it was a great game. Both teams played. It was clearly a 1v2. A first versus second game, I should say. And yeah, it was a really good game. I obviously tipped Panthers thinking that they were going to get the win here, but I was wrong. And yeah, there's not much else to it. Melbourne have pretty much locked in first place. And yeah, we'll move on from that game to the two Friday games. First was Manly and the Warriors. Manly got the win here, 24-10 at 4 Pines Park. You know what? Warriors put up a fair fight, in all honesty. They put up a fight. You know, they didn't make it easy for Manly, but just towards the back end of the game, Manly they just were relentless. Tommy Turbo was great. I think he scored me about 100 Supercoach points, so big bonuses for that. I missed chunks of this game, so there's not too much I can comment on about this game, but overall, solid game. Now, I did watch this full game. Friday night, 8 o'clock, Roosters versus Parramatta at Allianz Stadium. Roosters thrashed the Parramatta Eels 38-14. And what was wet and wild footy at its absolute finest. The grounds at Allianz Stadium looked absolutely torrential. Just puddles of just water. It made the game a lot messier, but it made it somewhat more interesting to watch. But yeah, the Roosters attack was outstanding. Honestly, in my opinion, Roosters have the best attack in the comp by a mile. And it's not like most teams will have maybe two players that cause a lot of their attack. No, they have so many players among every single position that can just put on these great attacking stats. You know, Dom Young, Tupou, Swaliti, Manu, Teddy, Kiri, Walker, Big Spencer Leniu, Angus Crichton, Connor Watson. That's just naming a few of their, you know, absolutely dominant players. So yeah, Roosters, they were really good, as per usual. Again, Penrith and Melbourne have pretty much locked in their spots for first, second, and third. And, you know, Roosters can go quite a long way this season, I think. As for Parramatta, their season's been done for a while. They're just trying to make it through to this season. You know, next year they've got a new coach coming in. They've got a lot to play for next year. It'll be different for them next year. Their season's pretty much over. So there's not much else I can really comment about the Eels. Then on the Super Saturday at 3 o'clock, Bulldogs and Dolphins. Doggies got the win up at Bundaberg, 30 points to 10. Obviously, as you know, I do my deep dive on Bulldogs games, so I'll keep the review of it quickly. A really good game, great contest. Obviously, Doggies were just too good towards the end of the game. It just shows the fitness of the Bulldogs and where they're at compared to other teams like the Dolphins. They're a lot more match fit ready, and their defense is just on point. Again, I think now as of this round, they are the number one defensive side in the comp, which, considering last year, we were the worst defensive team by a mile. On average, we were conceding 32 points a game. This year, we're conceding, on average, 16 points a game. Like, that is huge turnaround. And, again, half. That's huge. Obviously, huge credit to Cameron Serraldo, the players, the other coaching staff. It's been an amazing turnaround for the Bulldogs, in all honesty. As for the Dolphins, they're now fighting for top 8. They were comfortably in the top 8 for a good portion of this season, but they've fallen off, they've slipped, too many injuries have caught up to them, and now they're fighting for top 8. So, yeah, a bit of a shame for the Dolphins. The next game, Cowboys and Raiders up at Townsville. Cowboys pumped Raiders 42-4. This was another. I was partying in Belmore after the Doggies win, so I missed all of the first half of this game. But from all the highlights that I saw, and then obviously watching all the second half, the Cowboys were just absolutely clinical. They needed a response. They dropped Chad Townsend. They brought in Jake Clifford, and they just put on an absolute masterclass over the Raiders. Like, Val Holmes had probably his best game of the season. Everyone just played their roles. They're a team that I like the Bulldogs and mainly are all racing for top 4 spot. And yeah, it was a great showing from the Cowboys after the embarrassing performance the week prior. As for the Raiders, they've been absolute shot. Like, several weeks now, they've been pumped. They're very weak defensively as of late. Their attack isn't clicking. You think with Jamal Fogarty coming back into the side that they'd be a lot better off, but they haven't. They've just been a very poor showing from the Raiders lately. But again, that's what most people kind of expected from the Raiders this year. So yeah, not much else. And what turned out to be a really interesting game, Tigers and Rabbitohs at Campbelltown. Tigers getting the win, 18 points to 16. A lot went on in this game. You had a forward pass being missed, then one being called right at the death. You then had the Tigers great defensively. They were also great attacking-wise. Souths had that huge fight back towards the back end of the game. Absolute showing from both teams. It was actually a very funny game to watch. Because I tipped the Tigers purely because Tigers were just due for a win eventually. So, it always makes me happy when Tigers win. So, well done, Tigers. Great showing from you guys. And I reckon next year they have a lot of promise coming their way. As for Rabbitohs, they're done. Like, they had that little month, I'd say, where they were genuinely about to fight for top 8, but they haven't won a game in a good while now. I think their last win actually, I think it was against the Tigers. I could be wrong. But yeah, they've been shot. They're done as well. Yeah, they can start playing that Bali trip. Then we move on to the Sunday ticket. We had the Dragons and the Titans at Wollongong. Dragons got the win, 32 points to 16. If you'd only watched the highlighted version of this, you would see that in the first minute of this game, Titans had the ball, and they just ran 90 meters and just scored a brilliant try. Off the first minute, their first touch of the ball. So I could imagine all Dragons fans are thinking, oh shit, it's going to be a long game. And Dragons just absolutely turned it up and just put 26 unanswered points. Then Titans had a bit of a fight back in the second half, and then Dragons ultimately got the win. Again, Dragons have been following this pattern since round 14. Win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. So by this math, they should lose this week, but I'll get into that when I cover my tips. Once again from the Dragons, it's the inconsistency as always. But I gotta give them credit. In the second half, yes, they let 2 tries go through, but at the same time, majority of the second half, they didn't even cross to the Titans over the 50-meter line into Titans territory. And they were actually really good defensively. So I'll give my props to them. As for the Titans, I think I will apologize. I think I put a jinx on them. Because ever since I said that Titans, they could be racing for top 8, they've then lost their following 3 games straight. They got absolutely shot down by the Sharks, and then the week prior they played against the I'm trying to remember who they played again. Oh no, my apologies. They did play. It was the Sharks in round 23 they played, and in round 24 they got pumped by the Dragons. So literally they haven't won a game since they made that claim that Titans could make a race for top 8. So, and mathematically they're done. They're not making the 8 this year. A bit rough for them, but you look towards next year, is what I'd say to Titans fans. Just look forward to next year. You know, you'll have another preseason. Des Hasler will have another preseason with the Titans. Tino will come back. You'll probably get your shit sorted out, and some of your defensive decisions, and you guys could be a genuine top 8 next year, maybe. But yeah, there's not much else for the Titans. And then for the Sharkies versus the Newcastle Knights at PointsBet Stadium, Sharkies got the win in golden point, 19 points to 18. And out of every game this round, this had the most controversy around it. Absolutely shocking scenes. And no surprise, at the forefront is the refereeing from none other than Jared Sutton, the biggest wanker in the entire NRL, in my opinion. Yeah. I can't stand Jared Sutton. It annoys the shit out of me. Anyway, yeah. Sharks started out really strong, leading 10-0. Then Newcastle made a fight back, and they made it 18 to 10. Then Sharks made a very late comeback, sent this game into golden point. And Kalen Ponga had a chance to win this game, but then Jared Sutton called a penalty on a blocker rule, which that rule, I'm sorry, requires so much more clarification around it. It's insane. Like, no one's defending it, that rule, except obviously Graham Ansley, because, you know, he kind of has to. Besides that, it was absolutely embarrassing, just calls from the ref. So much so that Kalen Ponga on the other end of the field then had to play for that exact same penalty because he knew he had to, because he abused that rule. Because with this whole blocker rule now, pretty much if I'm, let's say for example, I'm the halfback and I'm lining up for a field goal, and then I have two of my players in front of me. If then the opposition team runs into my players, and let's say for example they haven't moved, they're just standing there, and I get the kick, it gets called penalty. It's a penalty, and I don't get the conversion, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Because then that means the only way for this to work is you have to tell your players, okay, on this set we're going to go for the field goal, move out of the way, which then leaves you not only exposed, it then also lets the opposition team know, okay, he's going for a field goal, put pressure on him, try and get a charge down. You know, it's just taken away the intrigue and the skill that requires of this game. You know, they're making it too complicated. Like, just anyway, it was a frustrating watch, and Sharks get the win, which it just makes it harder for Dogs to get top 4 if Sharks keep winning, and if the NRL keeps trying to help the Sharks get their wins. And I went on a bit of a tangent there. So that is my round 24 review. What we're going to do now is the Bulldogs vs Dolphins match deep dive. I kept it very brief in my review because I want to talk in depth about, you know, standout moments from the match, standout players, my player of the match, of course. And yeah, so we'll just get straight into it. So, going into this game, I was a bit nervous. As a Doggies fan, I'm always going to be nervous going to a game. You know, we had our home record put on at jeopardy because we're versing the Dolphins up in Queensland, but we're the home team. So we had our home record put at jeopardy. But, you know, obviously I was proven wrong to be worried because, you know, we're the Bulldogs of 2024. We're a much better team now. We're going to win the comp. It is what it is now. And yeah, bit of a interesting start to the game. Dolphins were very quick to rush out the line and try and shut down the Bulldogs. And then it took about 10 minutes for the first try to go through with Kuraz, who then he scored, and then like the way the ball landed, it winded him so much so he started spewing, and we all laughed. Like me and my mates and a couple of other people, we all went to Canterbury Leagues Club to go watch the game. By the way, it was packed there. I highly recommend going to Canterbury Leagues Club to watch Doggies games. You know, you get the most passionate Doggies fans there. Everyone's in a good mood. Well, now they're in a good mood because we're winning. And then afterwards, when we get the win, go party in Belmore. You know, that's what I'm doing. Like, even for this Friday's matchup against the Warriors, I'm going to go be at Canberra Leagues Club. So you'll probably be seeing me around Belmore, around the Leagues Club. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Good fun. Anyway, back to the game. I can hear someone doing gardening outside. Anyway. Yeah. Kieran scores. And then I think it was at this moment, like later on, it's like 4-0. And then Bulldogs get the ball. Oh, sorry, Berto, I think he had a penalty. He then got a convert. I think. Yeah, he got a conversion back at 6-0. He then Pangai, the Jahash, he drops the ball, or he does a shitty offload, and Samuel Hughes picks it up, gives it to Sherry. Fox then gets the ball, and for all money, I thought he was going to score. We're all going nuts. We're going, go, go, go. We're cheering him on. We're thinking, oh shit, he's going to score. Then out of nowhere, the hammer was running through. I think he clocked 40 Ks an hour, grabbed him, and pushed him over the line, over the sideline. That, again, obviously, from the Doggies' perspective, that was embarrassing. The supposedly fastest man in the comp got run down, pushed over the line. But from a neutral perspective, that was a brilliant chase. You know, Fox clocking 40k an hour to then not only get the Fox tackled, but then out of the play. You know, that was just brilliant work. And then also just good old chase down, especially after all this talk about the 100-meter sprint. I think we kind of put that into the bed. But then at the same time, you got to remember, Fox has carried 3 different injuries this year. You know, he had a shoulder injury, a head concussion, then a big hammy injury which took him out for 10 weeks. And then on top of that, he's been doing this carnivore diet, so he's bulking up a bit now. Plus, he's not the same Fox he used to be. You know, he's not the Fox of like 5 years ago who could outrun anyone by a mile. No, he's a bit slower now, but he's still fast. Don't get me wrong, he could smoke me any day of the week, but he's not as fast as he used to be. And it's a bit of a shame. Anyway, then Dolphins scored. And then Akira scores over again. This time doesn't spew. Berto missed again, and that was rough, those first 2 kicks. Anyway. And then, I think going to halftime, then Fox picked up a 4-pointer. And this time, no Hammer was chasing him. Berto gets the kick. Then then we had a bit of a scuffle where Marnie, being a pest, goes and slides up with TPJ. The bastard then grabs him and throws him to the floor. Like, bro, it was funny, but at the same time, like, I can't stand Pangai. He literally cheated his way out of a contract to then go with the Dolphins, and then along the way talked shit about the Bulldogs. Pretty much saying, I don't want to take orders from halfbacks, from coaches anymore. Well, look at us now, dickhead. We're playing finals, and you are struggling to make top 8. Good luck with that, Pangai, you donkey. Anyway, and then Averillo gets a mad intercept try right before halftime. Now look, I loved Averillo. I thought he was our best player last year, in all honesty. He was outstanding. And, you know, I was very heartbroken with him going to the Dolphins. And then he's been alright this year. Scored an intercept try, which was absolutely unreal. And then second half, it was a very defensive-based second half. You know, again, very much like the Dragons game. Most of our tries and points were scored in that first half. But then going in the second half, we took a penalty goal to make it 18-10. And then we then went on to score 2 tries in the span of like 2 minutes. All done on the same side where Berto and Kiko worked together to get Tracy and Jerry over the line to score tries. It was all on TPJ's side, by the way. Pangai Jr. got a bit bullied towards that back end of the second half, which I thought was hilarious. And again, at the Leagues Club, every time Pangai had the ball or appeared on screen, we'd all boo him, which I thought was hilarious. And ultimately, obviously, Dogs got the win, 30 points to 10. Again, this is back-to-back weeks where we kept the Dolphins scoreless, or we kept a team scoreless in the second half. And now this makes us the number 1 defensive team in the comp, which, you know, that is absolutely outstanding work. I think that is absolutely brilliant. You know, we're 11 points ahead now. And that's a huge confidence boost going into this finals run, or this run before the finals, and then the finals themselves. So yeah, that's my match deep diving away. Now, my player of the match. I've been wanting to give this guy a player of the match for ages, but there's always been like 1 or 2 players that have just outworked him, or just been genuinely better. But for the first time on this podcast, I can proudly say that my player of the match is the Lebanese international Jacob Kiraz. Had an outstanding game with he had 2 tries, 2 line breaks. He ran for a stack of meters as per usual. You know, he ran for 297 meters. You know, absolute wash of a player. He was brilliant. He played a key role in this. He was great defensively as well, which is obviously great to see. And yeah, so for me, Kiraz was my player of the match. Also, I think I want to quickly side note. There was a segment in the middle of the game where the camera panned over to 2 of the Bulldogs' greatest players, and in my opinion, one of them is the greatest player of all time, in my opinion. Yeah, Terry Lamb and Josh Reynolds together. It was just iconic. You know, Terry Lamb, in my opinion, is the greatest player of all time, greatest Bulldogs player of all time, greatest 5'8" of all time, really. I reckon he should be an immortal. He should be the 15th immortal or something, in my opinion. And then also Joshy Reynolds, obviously the grub, icon of the club, childhood hero for me. And then after the game, obviously the team posted their chant video. And in that video, Josh Reynolds is like in the mix. He's celebrating harder than the boys were, which I thought that's just great. It shows he's still so passionate about this team and this club. And that put a huge smile on my face. Yeah, that was great. So, and then they post this mad photo with all the boys after the game, and just Reynolds is there with his shirt off, and it's like, it's really funny. I think that's just great. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what else he does with the club moving forward. He's been great, like as part of the like management stuff and like coaching. He's obviously playing some sort of mentor role, Josh Reynolds. So yeah, that's my player of the match, standout moments of the match, and just general Bulldog stuff. So now we're going to do round 24 awards. So for player of the round, I was going to go with Jacob Kiraz. That was until Val Holmes had his amazing performance on the very next game. You know, he's at my... I know we're going to get a Supercoach a bit later, but Val Holmes in my Supercoach squad scored 145 points. Obviously, he scored 3 tries, got all his conversions. Val Holmes was absolutely outstanding this round, especially after he got embarrassed by Tony Staggs the round previously. So for me, my player of the round has to go to Val Holmes. Now for team of the round, I don't want to give it to the Bulldogs because everyone will just say biased. So honestly, for team of the round, I'm going to give it to the Roosters. Yeah, I thought they were outstanding, attacking-wise. I know Cowboys were much better attacking, like they scored more points, but I think just the way the Roosters conducted themselves in attack, they were outstanding. Now for game of the round, I'm going to give it to Panthers and Melbourne. That was an outstanding game. Truly a blockbuster game, first v second. That was brilliant. Worst team of the round, I'm going to give it to the Raiders. I thought they were terrible. Like, they were really bad. And then worst game of the round, there's like 2 picks from this one. I'm trying to think what was really the worst game. Originally, I was going to give it to Tigers vs South, but that game had actual intrigue into something interesting. Oh, you know what? I might just... Yeah, I'm going to give it to Tigers versus Rabbitohs. No. Sorry, that's not the game I want to give it to. I'm going to give it to Sharks versus Newcastle. You know, bad refereeing decisions. Knights were they absolutely threw their game away in the second half, kept dropping the damn ball. Like, I think they had like 7 sets in a row where they just dropped the ball. So, yeah, probably worst game of the round has to go to Sharks and Newcastle. That game was a bit of a shit fest towards the end, and then some bad controversy. Yeah, probably the worst game of the round. So let's move on instead now to round 25. And we'll do our tips and our anytime try scorers. So, for the first game on the Thursday night, 7:50, Tigers and Manly at Leichhardt Oval. For the Tigers, no real changes to the side here. Same for Manly. I'm going to go Manly here, 50 plus. I've said that a fair few times now, and I always keep getting proven wrong. But if Manly seriously don't win this game by like 30 or 50, then I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna stop saying someone's gonna smash a team by 50 because it never seems to work. But yeah, I'm gonna go Manly 13 plus or 30 plus. And for anytime try scorer, I think Luke Brooks. He's gonna want to get up for this game. He's gonna want to score a try. He's gonna want to, prove himself that he's truly changed, and he's desperate to play. He is desperate to play finals footy. After 11 years at the Tigers, he wants to play finals footy. So Luke Brooks for an anytime try scorer. Moving on to the Friday night 6 o'clock game at Shaun Johnson Stadium, the Warriors and the Bulldogs. For the Warriors, no real change to the side here. For the Doggies, 1-17 the same. However, keep an eye out on Josh Curran. At the end of the Dolphins game, he left the field due to a shoulder injury, and there were constant photos after the game with him with an ice pack and clearly a bit of discomfort. And then also in the reserves is Max King, so keep an eye on that. Don't be surprised in the 24-hour team list that they might make some changes. Curran might get moved to the bench. He might get ruled out entirely. Max King might find a way back into the side. So we'll see what happens there. Okay. Now, this game is, out of our last 3 games, I'm the most nervous for this one. It's Shaun Johnson's last ever home game in New Zealand ever. They're naming the stadium Shaun Johnson Stadium. The Warriors have nothing else to play for. No finals footy. They're definitely not going to get the spoon. They're playing purely for Shaun Johnson's sake. And then on the other side, the Bulldogs, clearly the best defensive team in the comp. They beat the Warriors previously in a Golden Point thriller. And if Josh Curran is ruled out, that's one massive body that we're losing to an already small forward pack to then go up against Warriors' massive big body pack. Their big forward pack are all these big boys. So, bit nervous for that. However, a recent stat that I found is that every time an opposition team has had a milestone game this year, we've beaten them. Obviously, the most famous ones recently was Ko Nikorima's 200th. We beat the Dolphins. Papali's 300th. We beat the Raiders. Kapow's, or Tapau, whatever his name is, his 250th. We beat the Broncos. And then whenever it's a Bulldogs players milestone game, we win it. We won for Max King's 100th up at Belmore in round 3. Kiraz's 50th against the Warriors. At Akar's 50th game as a Bulldog against the Dolphins. Kikau's 150th against the Dragons. And then this week is Matt Burton's 100th game. So I'm going to tip the Bulldogs here 1-12 and Matt Burton for an anytime try scorer. I'm nervous as hell about this game, but I'm going to back the boys here 1-12 and Matty Burton to either get a try or he might even get a field goal. We'll see what happens. Moving on to the Friday night game at 8 o'clock, Broncos versus Eels. I'll quickly just cover the Eels, no changes to the side, 1-17 is the same. For the Broncos, Reece Walsh is out for an extended period with a broken hand or a fractured wrist or something. He's out for several weeks, potentially the rest of the season. Tristan Sailor takes his place in the side. This is up at Suncorp. Look, both teams have been shit this year, but since it's up at Suncorp, Broncos are still a fighting chance for top 8. I'm going to go Broncos 1-12 and Katoni Staggs for an anytime try scorer. Moving on to the Raiders and Penrith. This is at GIO Stadium, Saturday 3 o'clock. For the Raiders, a few changes here. Ethan Strange out of the side with, I believe, a calf injury. Jordan Rapano comes back at fullback after the head knock protocols. And then that puts KO Weeks and Jamal Fogarty as the halves pairing. So a bit of an interesting lineup there. For the Panthers, Nathan Cleary obviously ruled out. So Jerome Luai slots in at jersey number 7. Brad Schneider at 6. Edwards is now back at fullback after he made a return last week. Again, I want to put Penrith here for like 40 plus. And I'll put Isaac Tungo. I'll put him to score a try. Okay, moving on to the 5:30 game. This is down in Melbourne. Storm vs Dolphins. For the Melbourne Storm, Grant Anderson ruled out of the side, so Tyron Wishart comes in the winger spot. Other than that, no changes. For the Dolphins, Mark Nichols comes back into the side at the head knock protocols against the Warriors 2 weeks ago. I'm gonna go Storm 1-12 here. Harry Grant to score a try. Melbourne obviously want to lock in first, and Dolphins are trying to fight for top 8, so it'll be an interesting clash. And we move on to the 7:35 game. The South Sydney Rabbitohs versus the Knights at Accor Stadium. For the Bunnies, no changes. Cody Walker ruled out the side. The final nail in the coffin for this season. For Newcastle, no changes. This is going to be interesting. This is their last chance to win a game. Because they got Penrith, then they got Roosters. So if Souths don't win this game, they're not winning a game for the rest of the season. Newcastle, they're fighting for a top 8 spot. That win that they got robbed of against the Sharks would have helped them. But it's do or die for them now. So they got to win this game. I'm going to go Knights 1-12 and Kalen Ponga to score a try. Then we move on to the Sunday games. We first got the Titans versus Roosters at Seabus Super Stadium. For the Titans, no changes. For the Roosters, no changes. Connor Watson is ruled out of the side due to a head knock. Also, JWH returns back at jersey number 8 as a prop. He comes back from a 4-week suspension. That felt like it was ages ago. Not a lot longer than 4 weeks. Well, they did have a bye, so that would probably explain it. The Roosters 13 plus. Titans have nothing left to fight for. Roosters are looking to lock in top 4. I'm going to go Sam Walker here to score a try. I reckon he'll score down right to the middle. Then we move on to what will probably be the game of the round, hopefully, if Dragons can get up for it. We have Dragons versus Sharks down in the Gong. Alrighty, for the Dragons, no changes here to the side. For the Sharks, Tom Hazelton, Carl Ito, and Braden Trindle all come back into the side. So it'll be an interesting lineup. Obviously we've got a local derby. Sharks are now with Cowboys mainly in dogs hot on their trail. Sharks are going to want to guarantee a top 4 finish, while Dragons could potentially be playing finals if they get this win. Now, of course, they've gone win-loss since round 14, so based on this, I should be tipping the Sharks 1-12 here. However, I think Dragons are going to break this curse. Shane Flanagan, obviously going up against his former club, he's going to want to fire up the boys for this. I'm going to go Dragons here 1-12 and Zach Lomax to score in the corner. So, that is my round 25 tips and anytime try scorers. Also want to mention that last round, I got 7 out of 8 tips. I tipped Manly, Roosters, Bulldogs, Cowboys, Tigers, Dragons, and Sharks to all win, and they did. The only game I got wrong was the very first game with Panthers beating the Melbourne Storm, which was obviously incorrect. Melbourne beat Panthers. So, just want to preface that. But my anytime try scorer picks were shocking. I only got Lomax and Garrick. Everyone else didn't score. So let's hope we get different results this week. We get a perfect 8 out of 8 rounds, and we get at this point I'm home for 4 to 5 anytime try scorers. Alrighty, I believe that is now a wrap to my tips, anytime try scorers, and team list news for round 25. We'll quickly move on to a super coach discussion with my trades for this week. Okay, so Cowboys are on the bye this week, so Reece Robson and Val Holmes will not be able to play for me. Unfortunately, I have no hookers to back up, so my hooker position is empty this week. For the front row, I've got AFB and Josh Curran. If Josh Curran is unable to play, I'll be putting Royce Hunt in his place. Mariota will stay on the bench. For my second row, as TPJ, Angus Crichton, and Satili Tupanua will remain. Ruben Porter, Orion Keeling, and Katelga will stay on the sideline. For my halfbacks, I've decided to trade out Nathan Cleary, obviously, because he's not playing for the rest of the Supercoach season. I'm instead going to bring in his 5'8 partner, who can also play halfback now, Jerome Luai, to take his spot, with Jerome Hughes remaining on the bench. 4 5'8s, Matty Burden and Luke Keary. For my wingers and centers, Jacob Kuraz, Brian To'o, Zach Lomax. And I decided to trade out the hammer and bring in Dom Young, with Val Holmes and Jay Tungle on the bench, and Stephen Cry in the reserves also on the bench. Yeah, I'm bringing in Dom Young this week. I've only got one trade left going now into the last 2 weeks. However, I'm willing to make that sacrifice only because Dom Young, I think, is going to score a shit ton of points going into the... He's got the Titans this week, then the Raiders, then the Rabbitohs. Shit's going to get ugly. Dom Young, 100% will be on my side. And Jerome Luai, when Nathan Cleary was not in the side, he stood up big time, scored a lot of good points, made a shit ton of money. So I'm going to bring in Luai and keep him there for the rest of the year. Now for the fullbacks, James Tedesco in the reserve, and Tom Trbojevic will be my starting fullback, and I'm going to captain him. I reckon against the Tigers in their weak defensive side, Tom Trbojevic, who plays such a key role in the Manly attack, he's going to score a shit ton of points. I reckon he'll go 150 plus. So I'm going to captain Tom Trbojevic, and I reckon he's going to score me well. And I'm vice captaining Jacob Carras. So that is my Supercoach discussions and trades for this week. Looking forward to this. In my matchup, I should win this, hopefully, and keep going in my head-to-head finals. Now, I want to talk about... There's obviously a few... there's not much news this week compared to last week. However, I want to talk about just a few little niche topics before we cover the only real news headline this week, which was the 14th Immortal. I want to cover the Bulldogs fan base partying in Belmore constantly now. Of course, if this started in round 22 when we beat the Raiders, the streets in Belmore were going ballistic. We had burnout, cars beeping, flares, streamers being thrown. It was chaos. It was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we had some controversy issues going on after that, but regardless, it was a great, fun time, great experience. Then the following week, we beat the Dragons in Cogra. I went home, and then I'd see on my phone videos of Belmore going off. So I thought, it's a regular thing now. So I thought I'll try my luck last week, and I went to go watch the Dolphins and Bulldogs game at Canberra Leagues Club. After the match, Belmore was popping off again. Even Josh Mansour was there. I got a photo with him. It was mad. And, that leads me to the question. Is this going to be what it's like for the rest of the season? Every time Dogs win, are we just going to go party in Belmore? To that, I say yes. Because we have been starved of this for nearly a decade. We have been starved of going to Belmore to party and celebrate. We've been doing these walk of shame. We've been depressed in these last few years. The Dogs have not been playing well. So when we finally do, and we genuinely look like we're going to be a premiership contender here. Well, again, I think we're going to win the comp, but to everybody else who's normal, unlike me, when it comes to this, Dogs potentially being grand final winners this year, and just even the thought of us playing finals this year it's so great. And to put this into perspective of how good we are this year compared to last year, or compared to the last few years, in 2020 we got 3 wins, 21 we got 3 wins, in 2022 we got 7 wins. That in total is 13 wins across 3 years. In 2024 we've had 13 wins, and there's still 3 games to go. We've won more games this season alone than we have the last those 3 years combined. Like that's what I mean by the turnaround has been outstanding. And you're damn right we're going to be partying in Belmore. When we beat the Warriors, we're partying in Belmore. We beat Manly at a core, we're all coming back to Belmore. We then beat the Cowboys at a core the next week, we're coming back to Belmore. Belmore is the #1 party spot from now through to the finals. Even if we lose in the finals, Belmore is going to be popping off. So to that, we welcome all fan bases and all fans, please, after the Bulldogs win, come to Belmore. Trust me, you will not regret it. It is such a great experience. Everyone has, ever since the Raiders drum incident, everyone's calmed down a bit. We're not as bad as we were that day. And it's great. You meet a lot of great people, great fans. And hell, even random celebrities are there now. Josh Mansour being there was just funny, but it was great. That's really what I wanted to cover. It's just the partying in Belmore again. In my list of topics to talk about in today's podcast, I just put partying in Belmore again ? Because everyone's asking that question, like, is this what we're doing now? We're just partying in Belmore? And some people have complained about it, like, oh, okay, relax. It's only around 22, 23, 24. But just let us enjoy the party and let us have this kind of fun. Because we've been starved of this. A lot of young Doggies fans like me, again, I haven't been alive since the Doggies last won the comp. They won the comp a year before I was even born. So for me, getting to enjoy these celebrations and watching us be in the finals and potentially, winning the comp, we're going to want to party. We're going to want to celebrate. We've been waiting years for this. And it's such a positive experience because, again, if you can't tell by the sound of my voice, it sounded a lot worse, obviously, a few days ago. But we're yelling, we're cheering, we're doing random player chants, coaches chants. It was just great. And then all the content creators like me, and then we had Winston Neville, we had Amelia the Savage, Touchline Podcast guys. Everyone was there. It was just, it's such a community binding experience. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. So that's all been covered. For today's last topic, I want to cover the announcement of the 14th Immortal in Ron Coote. He was obviously a player long before my time. Again, he played in the 60s through the 70s, decades upon decades before I was born. Hell, my dad was still a young kid when he retired. But, I've looked back on his career, I've looked at his stats, and it's outstanding for a second rower / lock in that era. He played over 100 games for 2 different clubs. The 2 mortal enemy clubs and 2 of the original founding clubs in the South Sydney Rabbitohs and the Eastern Suburbs Roosters, they were called back then. And he played in 9 grand finals, and out of those 9, he won 6 premierships. For a player to win 6 premierships in those days and play 9 grand finals, most players today can't even achieve that. So, again, there was 30 now. There's only ever been 14 Immortals ever. So for him to be number 14, that is a huge achievement. And I'm glad for a man in his 80s, I was so glad he got to live long enough to see his achievement go through. Because a lot of these players, again, out of these 14 Immortals, only 4 of them are alive still. And that's Mal Meninga, Andrew Johns, and Wally Lewis. Everybody else has passed on since then. So to see those players from the olden days gain their chance to have this kind of glory, it makes me very happy, and it makes me excited to see who else will be inducted. Because everyone was saying, Cooper Cronk, Brad Fittler, Darren Lockyer, but we all know they're going to be Immortals. Give it some time. Let the people who went before them have their turn at immortality. Then let the other players have their chance. You can't just induct these guys straight away and ignore everyone who was there before them. Again, look at all the controversy around Andrew Johns being inducted. He only retired for 7 years, and then boom, inducted. You gotta give respect to the older players who laid the foundation for the modern players. That's why I genuinely think the next Immortal should be Terry Lamb. And I'm not saying that because he's the Doggies player, because he genuinely is a great player. He, again, until Darren Lockyer and Cameron Smith took over, he played the most games ever by a player. Out of the Doggies' 8 premierships, he won 4 of them. And he played in several grand finals. And he revolutionized the way 5'8's played. So for me, he's the greatest 5'8 of all time. And in my opinion, one of the greatest, if not the greatest player of all time. I know, typical, the Doggies fan makes it all about the Bulldogs. I'll go back to Ron Coote. Huge congratulations to him. Again, the 5th Rooster player. I think the 4th or 3rd Rabbitohs player to ever get inducted into immortality. To be an Immortal. That's great, especially for a second rower. Big boys back then, they didn't play that many games because they just were getting bashed all the time. So for him to achieve that many games and at 2 different clubs to win that many premierships, that is a huge achievement. And then obviously he represented New South Wales. He played for Australia in test matches and tour matches. He had an absolutely outstanding career. And I'm happy he got his chance, and I can't wait to see over the next several years, probably a few decades, who else gets inducted into the Immortals list, because there will be definitely a lot more. But yeah, I just wanted to cover that. Again, this was last night. It's Thursday now. Last night was when all this went down and he got inducted. I've covered that now. I'll quickly cover the actual ceremony. I think it was a great ceremony. All the Hall of Famers got a chance to come up, do their speech. That was great. Jonathan Thurston for some reason said Skibbity. I thought that was bizarre. Again, first ever player to ever say Skibbity at a formal event. That was really freaking strange. Anyway, that was hilarious and strange, but regardless, the ceremony was great. Seeing the big three again, iconic shit. They kept showing the 2012 and 2014 grand finals, and I kept getting really annoyed because that was when the Bulldogs lost those grand finals, and that really annoyed me. I was like, okay, we get it. You can turn that shit off now. Anyway, regardless. Yeah, so that might be actually it for today's podcast. Did my round 24 review, my Bulldogs match deep dive, my players of the match, player of the round, all my awards for round 24, team list, round 25 tips, anytime try scorers, Supercoach discussion, and my trades for the week. Talking about the Bulldogs fans partying in Belmore, Ron Coote being the 14th Immortal, and then obviously the Hall of Fame ceremony itself, and Jonathan Thurston saying Skibbity. Anyways, I think that's it for this episode. Okay, everybody, thank you for watching episode 6 of the Wild Doggies Fan podcast. If you're new here, please like the video, subscribe and comment down below, and stay tuned for all future videos. Also, please follow me on Instagram at the Wild Doggies Fan. You should see the Instagram up on the screen in front of you. Thank you everybody for listening, and I'll see you all next week for another episode of the Wild Doggies Fan podcast.